Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and we've got kind of a hybrid video today. We're going to take a look at loose complete action figures, some 12-inch figures, and then I also do have some loose graded figures. So graded and ungraded in this video, and not a huge batch, but enough to where I thought it was worth putting together a video. And I need to warn you that we might hear some knocking in the background. My wife decided to call a contractor to have a piece of broken siding fixed on my house, and she just now told me. So I have no idea how this is going to go. We'll see. But if you hear some knocking in the background, that's what's going on. All right, let's go ahead and dig in. We're going to start off with some 12-inch figures, loose complete. And this was a Han Solo 12-inch. This was a very nice example. Looks pretty close to mint, and this was sold by South Beach Toys. Always has really nice examples for sale. And you can see a little fraying on the vest there, but that's really about it. I mean, the rest of it is very, very clean, 100% complete. That one sold for $180 free shipping. Very nice sale there. Here was an Obi-Wan Kenobi mint in box. It was not still sealed, and it looks like it was, the Obi-Wan himself was in pretty good shape as well. 100% complete with the lightsaber and a box. You can still, it still has the zip ties on the back of that backer there. So again, perfect example of one to get like one of those sliding acrylic cases from Ian's or GW Displays. And on a side note, as it relates to that, case shells. Tom Hogan, who is a channel sponsor, Patreon supporter, he just got in a new shipment of case shells with the new design that has the rail going all the way around the card. And it's really nice for flattening out cards, and they make great displays. He sent me one as an example, and I've been meaning to post it to my Instagram so folks could take a look at it. But those are available now. He's got a huge lot of those available. Caseshells@yahoo.com is where you can go to order them. Very, very nice, high-quality cases that I highly recommend. And again, Tom Hogan is the seller. He's the owner of Case Shells. He sent me an example, and it was a pretty impressive case, I got to tell you. That's one of my big complaints with like AFA and CAS is that the rails on the sides don't go all the way up. And so sometimes if the temperature or whatever, or the humidity is not exactly perfect in your collection room, those cards can start to bow inside of the acrylic case. And this new case style has the rails that goes all the way up, all the way around. And I just think it's perfect for straightening out cards that maybe have a little bit of bowing to it. So thank you again to Tom for sending me an example of one of those. I'll be sure to show it on my Instagram and on the community tab for YouTube at some point soon. But caseshells@yahoo.com is where you can order them. I think he said that they're $12 a piece plus shipping. And the more you order, the more you can save in terms of combined shipping. So caseshells@yahoo.com. Back to the sales. This Obi-Wan again sold for $300 plus $15 shipping. Here was a mint complete Boba Fett. Has the Wookiee braid, the cape, the rocket pack, as well as the weapon, and it looked to be in really great shape. That one sold one bid in an auction for $450 plus $18 shipping on that one. And then here is the first loose graded item, and we're going to take a break on the loose graded and get back to it a little bit later on. But because I was covering the 12-inch line, I wanted to go ahead and show you this IG-88. This was a CAS 85 loose graded 15-inch IG-88, easily the hardest to find of the production 12-inch line. And you can see there it's got a great case from CAS with kind of the J hooks around the shoulders, and then both weapons are kind of splayed out on each side of the IG-88. Beautiful display. And I sent this one to my Patreon supporters as the auction was ending. It was around like $500 or so with maybe an hour or two left. I said, hey, this thing is still really cheap and well below what they even go for loose, complete, ungraded. Usually they sell in that anywhere from as low as $650 all the way. I've seen loose, complete examples sell as high as $850. This one sold in an auction for $815, which I thought was a great deal given how expensive it is to get this graded from CAS plus the shipping to and from CAS. So I thought $815 was a great deal on that CAS 85 15-inch IG-88. Very, very cool display there. I've got some mailers. Here is a Neonum mail-away with the box and the catalog. And you can see, it's hard to see it here, but it has that kind of little separate insert. There's the catalog as well as a separate single-page insert that maybe describes Neonum in more detail. This was available on the, let's see, the 48-back Return of the Jedi card backs with the mail-away Neonum offer, and this one's got that description. So I thought for 100% complete example in near mint condition, the box is in great shape. $144.50 from our friend Toy Scout number 2. And he also did have the Anakin Skywalker mail away with the box. The box was a little rougher, but the baggie itself as well as the catalog were unused. That one sold for $62, which I thought was a very good deal. Probably about 80 grade once you factor in the condition of the box. They also did have the mail-away baggie alone for Admiral Akbar. So just the Akbar mail-away baggie sold for $73 in an auction. So very good deals there. A few loose complete figures. This is the harder to find Hong Kong dark brown-haired Luke Farm Boy. So we talk about those slight differentiations on the hair color all the time. There's kind of the lighter brown-haired version of the Hong Kong Luke Farm Boy. This is not that figure though. This is the dark brown hair. So you can see there, Hong Kong COO with that very, very dark chocolate brown hair. These appeared on some ESB card backs as well as 48-back Return of the Jedi card backs. Very desirable. This one was very white too. I thought this was a great deal at $340, given that it would probably grade at least an 80 or an 80 plus is my guess. That, it's a very, very clean example. I don't really see any yellowing whatsoever to the limbs or to the tunic at all. So $340 on that one. Great deal. Next up was the Blue Saber Luke Skywalker Jedi. $159.50 was the final winning price on this one. Again, a very clean Luke. It had maybe one little slight nose rub, but otherwise pretty clean example. I would guess this one would grade an 80 plus, maybe an 85 if you're lucky, but this is the harder to find blue lightsaber version of Luke Jedi. $159.50 again, took that one home. A couple of last 17 before we dig into the loose graded figures. Here is a Monoman. This one was advertised as Dead Mint, and it did look very clean to me. That one sold for $280 plus $10.75 shipping. And then here was an EV99. This was advertised as no broken limbs or anything like that. One of the big things that can go wrong with this very fragile figure, but this one looked very, very clean. That one sold for $400, which is a big number relative to what I see even loose graded examples sometimes sell for now. This one's come back down to earth a little bit. For a while there, this was like $500-600, maybe even higher in higher grades, but I think that you can probably get it for a little cheaper than $400. Maybe that's just wishful thinking, but $400 seems a little on the higher end of the scale for EV99 right now. Loose graded figures. We've got a loose graded older case style for the Hollow Cheeks Tusken Raider, and this one was graded uncirculated 85. So obviously AFA no longer does the uncirculated designation for loose figures, but this would be a good example of a figure that if you got it at the right price, you could send it back in to AFA to get it loose graded again with an updated case style. I just don't know if I'd pay $660 for it, but it is an uncirculated 85. And as a side note, if you do send in one of these older case styles, if AFA still deems it being an 85 grade, it'll keep the uncirculated designation. Not that it really matters that much to me, but for some people, it's kind of like a desirable thing to have the uncirculated designation. I don't know if it would keep the 85 grade or not. I know that AFA does lower the score sometimes, and I know that Charles and Chris over at 5 Idiots Talking Toys, they had a number of figures recased where the grades did go down. I've never had that happen to me yet, but I have heard that happen to some people. But anyway, I just wanted to show this one. 660 is maybe a little higher than I'd go, given that you can probably find one in similar condition, ungraded, loose complete for like closer to $400. I'd probably roll the dice and just get one graded myself. But it is a U85, so I understand why someone was willing to pay that. Next up, CIB/AFA did have a few loose graded. This was an 85 graded Hong Kong Stormtrooper, brand new case style. You could argue maybe that the limbs are a slightly different shade versus the torso, the torso piece. Still sold for $247, which is probably at the lower end of the range for an AFA 85 Stormtrooper, and probably why it's sold that low. It's just because of the slight color differentiation between the arms, legs, and the torso. You could say that maybe it's degraded a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if I'd really care that much, but that Hong Kong Stormtrooper did sell in an auction for $247 and change. Here was a no COO dark gray hair Obi-Wan Kenobi, graded AFA 85, brand new K-style, beautiful figure. You could say maybe on the top of the head there, it looks like it maybe has a little scratch on the very top of his head. And you don't have to worry about that with me. You know, I don't have much hair to worry about, but this one he does, and he does have a slight scratch there on the top of his head. And that probably helped keep the price down just a little bit. It sold for $188.50. I'm used to kind of more like $225 to $250 right now for an 85 graded Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that one was a little bit lower than usual, and probably because of that little scratch there on the top of his head. You could argue maybe it's a little bit overgraded. I don't know. Next up was a very hard to find Category 4 baggie for the Black Bespin security guard. If you look at the SWCA website, they have a great baggie guide that kind of rates the rarity of the baggies 1 through 4, category 1 through 4, 1 being the most common, 4 being the most rare. And this one was a category 4 baggie, but it's for a character that most people don't care about. It was graded CAS 85+. I highlighted this to my Patreon supporters, and I think I even showed it in a what to buy video. That finally did sell. It was listed for $275. Best offer accepted on that one. Next up, here was another one I had in what to buy video. This was the blank raised bar Meccano Luke X-Wing. I believe it's a Meccano figure. That when I hear blank raised bar, which is what this stands for, BR bar, blank raised bar, I always associate that with the French Meccano factory. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what my brain seems to go to. It was graded UKG 85%, which is tough to do for any kind of Luke X-Wing. I've told you about that before. I had a brand new dead mint one, and it still only got an 85 from CAS. So anything that's 85 or above, I don't care what the grading company is, very desirable figure. This one did sell for 249 pounds to a YouTube channel watcher. They mentioned it to me in a comment, so congrats whoever grabbed that. I forgot your name. I apologize, but I'm glad you were able to pick that up. I'm glad I was able to highlight that, and thank you also for using the Patreon, the eBay affiliate links. I appreciate you doing that. But UKG 85%, blank raised bar, Luke Skywalker in his X-Wing gear. That one did sell for $315 US. And quite honestly, I was thinking about buying it myself. I just didn't feel like spending any money. So thank you again for buying that. You saved me some money there. Next up was a very tough to find red backpack version of this Spanish Pac figure for Dengar. And this is one I don't have, but you can see the very distinctive bright red color to the backpack as it relates to the purplish armor. So this is the early Spanish figure. This is not the Spanish PvP that's known for the dark purple armor and the very pale face. The Spanish Pac has more of a yellow kind of lemon face with maybe a slightly lighter color to the purple armor, but the backpack is such a distinctive dark red color. And that's how UKG labels it. I don't know how AFA would label this. They probably would not mention the red backpack, although I think they probably should. It's kind of cool. It was graded 75%, figure score of an 80, paint 75 for an overall 75, Dengar Spanish Pac red backpack. And that one did sell in an auction for 185 pounds, which is $234 US. That's well down, by the way, from some of the other prices I've seen for this particular figure. We saw one of these sell a few months back, and I want to say it sold for close to double this price. I could be misremembering, okay? I don't remember exactly what it sold for, but I remember being at significantly above $234 US. So that was a good deal relative to the other one that sold a few months back. Same seller also had a UKG 85% brand new K-style Yak Face. That one sold for 385 pounds, which is $487 US and change. And again, we've talked about this all the time, how Yak Faces over in the UK sell for a lot less than what they do over here in the US. And you can see on his hand there, it did have some rubs. I would argue that this one's overgraded. This one's really more like a UKG 80% to me. It got a paint score of 85%, which I really question, given that it has very noticeable paint rubs on his hand. And again, maybe I'm being picky, but you know, you can see a paint rub on his toe there, and then paint rubs on his hand. To me, this one's overgraded. and maybe that's why it held the price down a little bit at 385 pounds. But, again, by the figure, not the grade. We talk about that all the time. It's a good rule of thumb no matter who the grader is. I've seen overgraded and undergraded items from AFA, CAS, and UKG. This happens to be one of them from UKG. Very nice figure overall, though. Here was a big one. This was a UKG 90% vinyl Cape Jawa. I feel like we've seen a lot of vinyl Cape Jawas here lately in high grade. This was no exception. This was a UKG 90% gold, and it was a beauty, and it sold for 2,651 pounds, which is $3,353 US dollars. And that's even down a little bit from the last one that I believe sold for around 3,400. We've seen as high as 4,400 for a UKG 90%. So interesting how the prices have dropped here recently. Maybe it's a sign of people struggling to pay bills. But, I feel like anyone who's buying this is not struggling to pay bills, that they have some disposable income at hand. But I do find that interesting that this one has seemed to have dropped lately, and maybe it's just because there's been so many of them that have popped up here lately for sale. And, it's just proof that there's very few really rare action figures, right? It's just whether you're looking at them graded by UKG or AFA, vinyl Cape Jawas are not rare. They're just highly desired. So it's a supply and demand issue. Demand outstrips supply, but there is a very readily available supply of vinyl Cape Jawas. Let's not kid ourselves here. It's not rare. Okay. I would argue that some Spanish figures are much more rare than a vinyl Cape Jawa, but no one cares about a red backpack Spanish pot Dengar versus a vinyl Cape Jawa that's graded UKG 90%. And that's why this one sells for whatever it is, 12 times that what the Dengar sold for. So beautiful figure, though. Here was another shocking final sales price. These were AFA 90s. Both of these were graded 90. Both of them were brand new case styles. This was a C-3PO and then a dark blue dome R2-D2. So the early R2-D2 dark blue dome that came in the early bird kits, and it was a beauty, and it was graded 90% from or 90 by AFA. So two 90s, both of them archival cases, I believe. Let's see. It looks like the C-3PO doesn't have an archival case, but it is also a 90 grade Hong Kong COO. This went in an auction, and it was a very heated auction. 49 bids on this one. $2,579 was the final winning bid. I do know who bought that. I'm not going to out them, but congratulations who bought that. That is a pretty impressive pair. I would be curious. I didn't look it up. I didn't look up the certification numbers to see what they are on the population report. I imagine that there's not a lot of 90 grades or above for either one of these particular figures, but it was just an incredible final sales price. Essentially, you're almost $1,300 a piece for 90 grade C-3POs and R2-D2s. Please leave me a like if you enjoyed this video. Please comment below with any recent pickups. I'd like to hear what you guys are grabbing. Thank you, as always, for watching, and I'll be back soon.